Exhibitionism is not a chronological history of the band. Rather, we're really looking at their cultural significance. Mick Jagger and the rest of the members of the band were really not interested in looking back in time. They always want to look forward, and that's one of the reasons they've been so successful over the last 50 years, and they've stayed so culturally current. Very early on, Mick and the band realized that, and there's a quote in the exhibition where he says this, he said, you know, bands think it's just about the music. And it's not. It's about what you wear and how you're photographed and what you put on video and what your kind of cultural legacy is. When you think of a lot of important moments in our culture, the Stones have been part of it. It's a way for fans to experience the band in a different way, really. It's also a way for the younger generation to kind of appreciate the band in a different way. This seems to be starting on a trend. You know, there was the David Bowie exhibition, obviously the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that, you know, there's an opportunity to kind of bring popular culture into an exhibit format in a kind of meaningful and fun way. In archival situations, more is more, as opposed to less is more. So it's like, what are the stories that you want to tell, and kind of the objects that you save and the objects that you archive should really kind of bolster these stories. An object is just kind of an empty vessel unless it kind of has some sort of context and history around it. You know, this is an exhibition of Ronnie's guitar and him talking about why this guitar is so important to him and what he plays on this guitar. During every decade, they've recognized talent in art, in design, in stagecraft, in fashion, and they've aligned themselves with these artists of the zeitgeist that have really kind of helped them be current. So, you know, in the 60s it was Andy Warhol, in 2000s it was Shepard Fairey, and the Stones have a very iconic logo, the tongue and lips. Over the years, you know, they've taken that logo and reinterpreted it and freshened it. Mick's all about the future. He's not about nostalgia. You see that in every part of what they do and what they create. In the 60s, when the band was just starting out, the Rolling Stones were a little bit sexy and a little bit dirty and a little bit naughty. And it appealed to a lot of other artists that were around at the time, writers such as Truman Capote and Norman Mailer, ballet dancers, and they were considered more kind of high culture, as it were, as opposed to rock and roll, which was kind of like more low culture, popular culture. So there was this kind of moment when it kind of all came together. And I think that the Stones really kind of, well, and Mick in particular, really cultivated this. Businesses who have a long history, I think it's really important for them to realize their history, archive their history, and present their history. I did a lot of work in the past for Harley-Davidson, and they're kind of in a unique situation because they've always been part of popular culture. But they've always were very good about kind of archiving and keeping photographs and motorcycles and ephemera and documents that kind of created their history. And I think it really behooves company to really kind of look at their past to kind of market to the future and present the future.